I had a train going by, so I had to wait till it goes by. I get all this background noise now that I'm outside on my deck. What a beautiful blue sky we've got behind us. Isn't this amazing? I love coming to you like this in the back deck. But it's noisy in the neighborhood, so you're going to hear noises. No big deal. You can hear what I'm reading. That's the main thing. I didn't want to wear my headphones today. I thought I'd just do it like this, and you can still hear me pretty clear. So that's pretty good. I got my coffee, ready to rock and roll. So welcome. Glad to have you here. All right, we're going to continue on with Galatians and the concordant commentary, and this is Galatians chapter 2. Paul's next visit to Jerusalem was pursuant to a revelation. The time had come to obtain official recognition of his apostleship and the evangel. The occasion was furnished by those of the circumcision themselves. They insisted that it was needful to circumcise those among the nations who had believed, and to teach them to observe the law of Moses. Paul and Barnabas were sent to Jerusalem to put this question before the apostles and obtain from them the assurance that circumcision and law-keeping were not necessary for salvation. Paul's method in Jerusalem seems to have taken into account the low spiritual state and prejudices of the Jewish believers. It would have been practically impossible to impress the whole company with the character and divinity of his commission to the nations. So he singles out the leading brethren and seeks to show them how God has committed a distinct work to him. Peter and James seem to have grasped the essential points which he wished to impress upon them. Peter had had some preparation for this change through a vision given him in connection with the proselyte Cornelius. Acts chapter 15, verses 7 through 11. Titus was taken along as a test case. If circumcision was essential, then he must submit to it. If it was not essential, then he was to be a living proof that it was not necessary. At the private meeting with those of repute, Paul obtained the fullest recognition of his apostleship. James, Cephas, and John, who were recognized as the chiefs, acknowledged his commission. This puts Paul on a par with Peter, the chief of the circumcision apostles. There was a mutual understanding arrived at among them that they would confine themselves to the circumcision, while Paul and Barnabas went to the nations. This agreement should have kept the Judaizing disturbers of the Galatian believers from interfering with them. Paul kept his part of the compact, especially that which concerned the collection for the poor saints in Judea. He brought gifts from the nations. In return, they harassed those to whom he had been sent and would have killed him. Paul's third meeting with Peter is most conclusive. At his first meeting, he tells Peter of his commission. At his second, he gets Peter's recognition. At his third, he towers far above them and withstands them to the face. That's Peter. Peter had been taught not to call anyone common or unclean, who had the witness of the Holy Spirit, so that when he first came to Antioch, he ate with the uncircumcised. But he was afraid of the circumcisionists and changed his attitude when they came down from Jerusalem. What prestige these men had who could intimidate the very chief of the apostles. Paul's double dealing did not deceive Paul. Peter's double dealing did not deceive Paul. Though he seems to have dragged all the rest of the Jews in Antioch with him, not even excepting Barnabas, Paul is left alone as the champion of the truth. He has far more cause to fear Peter than Peter has to fear his misguided subordinates. But he does not flinch. He exposes Peter's inconsistent conduct. Paul's logic is unanswerable. Peter had been living as the nations. If he was right, then the nations were right in living as they did. And the Judaizers were wrong in trying to make Jews out of them. He could not withdraw without incriminating himself. Paul then takes up the case from the standpoint of the Jews who were with him. He and they were justified by the faith of Christ apart from the law. Should they now voluntarily resume their former relations to the law, they would become sinners, and Christ a dispenser of sin. For the law is not laid down for the just, but for sinners. In fact, to go back under law would prove either that they had been wrong in leaving it, or were wrong in returning to its bondage. Death is the ultimate effect of the law, yet it is also deliverance from the law. We have endeavored to transcribe this marvelous compendium of the faith as nearly as possible as it is in the original, for even the order of the words is exquisite. The sentence opens and closes with Christ, and a negative I occupies its center. It may be shown graphically thus: with Christ have I been crucified, yet I am living. No longer I, but living in me is Christ. What a contrast between the slavery of the law and the exultant life by the faith of the Son of God and the gift of his love. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous. I'll say it again. With Christ have I been crucified, yet I am living. No longer I, but living in me is Christ. Beautiful words. All right, we'll continue tomorrow with Galatians. I love it. I love this day. It's beautiful out here. Maybe I'll just take you and show you my backyard and show you the snow that's left, but it's pretty nice. You know, it's going to melt here soon. It's still quite a bit on the lawn, as you can see. And this is my neighborhood, as you can see. Lots of houses, no privacy. Yeehaw. Doesn't matter. And that's my deck, and my concordant version, and my barbecue, and my house, and blah, blah, blah. But it's beautiful out here today. So, grace and peace. We will talk to you tomorrow.